The Isaiah Factor Uncensored starts right now.
And good evening and welcome to The Factor Uncensored. It's not a ruling yet, but that leaked draft from the Supreme Court suggesting the reversal of Roe versus Wade has been confirmed by the court as authentic. A live look now of Washington, D.C. You're looking at the building where we may get official confirmation in about 2 months on their decision, the U.S. Supreme Court, where crowds were gathered earlier today and last night when we brought it to you live, and where that draft was leaked. Now, which we have learned, an investigation into that leak is underway now, and whomever was behind it could face criminal charges. Now, the reactions are divided from total shock and disgust to celebrations. Tonight, we don't want to hear from the damn men, nothing from them, because at the core of this very important issue, women. The first half of The Factor Uncensored is dedicated to hearing from them and the issue of abortion as I move the hell out of the way. Take a look.
As a pro-life activist and a Republican member of the Republican Party, on the political side, it means a win for us politically. But on the personal side, I have very strong feelings about abortion. And as someone who has had 3 abortions myself, followed by 7 miscarriages, I can say that I see both sides of this issue. And this issue is very complex, and it's not one to be discussed in a vacuum. It has to be discussed with in tandem with other issues that we're dealing with in our country in terms of education, economic issues, racism. We have to talk about it all in one conversation, because the people that are most affected by any law that prohibits or allows any kind of medical procedure in this conversation, we're talking about women having a right to choose whether or not they're going to have an abortion. That decision is going to affect a lot of Black and brown women moving forward. And I believe that the government should stay out of our business. As a Republican, I believe, dear government, stay out of my body, stay out of my business. You don't have to go home with me at night and deal with my bills or my problems or my situation. Don't tell me what to do with my body, because you're not going to be the individual that has to live with that child, raise the child, and pay for the child. And as an activist, I feel that of people that look like me were at Planned Parenthood right there off of 59 by U of H. If they look like me standing there with the other pro-life activists, I might have thought again or given it a second thought before I had each one of those 3 abortions. But the fact is that when I was a young 20-something-year-old woman, there were a lot of scary looking white people in front of Planned Parenthood with these very graphic images of fetuses like torn apart. And it was scary. I was very scared. So I think that as pro-life activists, we need to recognize that we're talking about very vulnerable women here, women who need guidance and support, and they need information. And they need to know, what is it going to look like for me being a mom? Or what is it going to look like if I choose not to have this baby? I mean,
let's bring Rashonda into this. Rashonda, your thoughts on this draft that could soon be reality here in this country. What does it mean?
You know, it's really sad to me, because I am a Democrat. I am pro-life in that I believe in life, but I believe in choice. I believe a woman should have a choice on what she does with her body. You hear a lot of times women say, I wish I had had this choice back then, but you had a choice. And so I see that going away by a group of people sitting up above in the Supreme Court deciding what to do with my body. They don't know my situation. They don't know what's going on. And I'm really concerned with the fact that they care about my womb, but they don't care once the child is out. You see that a lot.
Oh, good point.
That's a huge
Very good point.
That's a huge misconception about the Republican Party and where we land on this issue.
Right.
We land on supporting women who choose to keep their children, and we provide community resources and support to women who choose to start their families under very bad circumstances, or even some of the most favorable circumstances. It doesn't matter. The real pro-life movement are people who want to support women who choose to start families, not condemn women who want to have abortions. And there's
Kathleen, let's hear from you after that. Go ahead.
Well, I always like to go back to 1973. You know, I feel like I grew up in the wake of Roe v. Wade, because I graduated high school in 78 and college in 82. And it was 11 men in black robes that made a decision that has haunted us, and especially women, all these decades later. And there's a reason for that. I think that we didn't have conversations like we're having now, that we weren't able to vote for the people to represent us to make these laws. And I think that that haunted us. And I felt like the women that I saw as I was growing up that had abortions suffered deeply from it. And I don't think that was ever looked at either. So I feel like it's time for it to come back to the people and let us make the decisions, as women and as citizens.
Dr. Ruth, is that where it needs to be, with states to decide this?
Well, I'm not really sure where it needs to be. I don't really have the answers to this, but I do know that we need to make some choices. Women need to make some choices before pregnancy. And so that's where we're going to have to come down as well. At the same time, I disagree that those people who claim to be pro-life are also pro-child. Remember, I work in the inner city, and so I see the conditions that people are living in. I see the inequities in education. I see the problems with employment, underemployment, all the terrible things in the economy. The same people who say they're pro-life are really pro-birth, but then don't seem to follow through in terms of what is needed after children are born. And so it's a very, very complex situation. And by the way, I don't believe that abortion should be a manner of birth control. There are many more ways now to avoid an unwanted pregnancy. So all of these things, we have to have a lot of education. And but I don't think screaming at each other and giving graphic signs and all of that, that's not helping the situation. I can tell you this, though, people can make decisions early on. I'm a child of the 70s as well. And so some of these decisions that were made, abortions, when you look back after you've made a decision in your 20s and you look back in your 40s and say, oh my God, what did I really do? We really need to begin to talk about that and deal with that pain as well.
And that is Dr. Allison, that is why I am so passionate about my work in pro-life movements, because I'm in my 40s now, and I'm not that young girl in my 20s who made those decisions and who made those 3 separate decisions to have 3 abortions. I'm much older now, and I've lived life a little longer, and I regret all 3 of those abortions. Those were terrible decisions that I made. And I can look back now, hindsight is 20/20, of course, but we've got to educate these women who are considering abortion. Like, these are your other options. This is because we are 40 years after Roe versus Wade. So there's women like me now who are not afraid to talk about regretting choosing abortion. And I think more women like me should come out and tell their story, because we really need to see both sides of this whole issue, that it's not just about the woman at hand. It's about families. It's about communities. How are we as Black people in America going to strengthen and move beyond race with our own families? We have to have strong families. And with strong families come strong communities. And I want to welcome all the ladies on the panel to the Republican Party, because
that's not going to happen.
We're good.
Right now, that ain't happening.
The ladies weren't having that. We are just getting started with this deeply divisive topic on The Factor Uncensored tonight. We're continuing this important conversation after the break. Your opinion also matters. We want to hear from you. So log on to fox26houston.com and take our poll. We're asking you, who do you think should be able to determine abortion rights? The Supreme Court, the states, Congress, or women? We'll be back. And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. Tonight, we're talking about the potentially historic Supreme Court reversal of Roe versus Wade, ending abortion rights in this country as we know it. It would be left up to the states, if this is overturned, the states to decide what abortion laws would be in each jurisdiction. Now, my guests are conservative, liberal, Black, white, but they are all women. with their opinion.
I'm pro-choice because I don't feel anyone should dictate what any decision that anyone makes as it relates to their body. When we talk in terms of family and foundation, what does that look like? We don't know the situation, the reasoning behind the pregnancy and what has taken place. So what if this is an unwanted pregnancy, something that has happened, that this woman, she's forced to have this baby, and here we are in these situations. Now we're dealing with child abuse because this is an unwanted child. We have to make sure that that education, that forefront, all those things up front takes place. And more importantly, we need to focus on making sure that we as women, our rights are protected.
Correct.
That level of
That is a big
control
one.
that they
And-
want to possess over us, we have to make sure that that is not taking place. Because here's the thing, those that are truly going to be affected by this change are the African-American women that do not have 100% access to health care, that are socioeconomically, deprived, don't have the resources to be able to provide 100%. We need to make sure that they are protected. So get out, we need to vote, we need to exercise our rights, we need to make sure that the Women's Health Protection Act is incorporated, so that way we are protected as women. And if we want to talk about family and foundation, let's make sure true family and foundation is created.
And Steph, let's hear from you. What do you think this country will look like if Roe v. Wade is overturned? Obviously, we're talking about a draft and the final published decision is not out there. What do you think this country will look like with most states already leaning towards a ban on abortion?
So, my opinion here is I think that we should have the opportunity to choose. What I have seen, and even in Texas, whenever they lowered the limit of the time frame for women to choose to have an abortion, and there's so many circumstances that surround this, whether it could be rape or sexual assault or whatever the reasons may be. So at that point, I even know of some women that have had to travel 2 or 3 states over in order to get an abortion from an unwanted pregnancy. And, number one, we have big government. So I think that it is good to let the states decide what on the Roe versus Wade addendum or whatever you call it. However, removing our rights to decide what we do with our body is going to be a big problem. And it's going to cause a lot of problems whenever these women are going to have to be forced to go to other states in order to get this done. I mean, we should be able to choose what we do with our wombs and our bodies. And it's just really sad that, I think it's Kathleen had said, it was a panel of 7 or 8 men that are the ones that decided what our fates were on what we were going to be doing with our bodies and our wombs. And I, of course there's always room for change, but to remove our rights to be able to make that choice for ourselves is pretty scary, actually.
Now, we are wrapping up our conversation after the break as this panel of women stress the importance of understanding why abortions are sought out.
We all agree that women should be educated, and we all agree on that. And there is a great organization.
And men should be educated.
And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. Strong opinions from 6 women tonight over the Supreme Court's potential and very likely reversal of abortion rights here in this country. One of my guests starts off with more on how this will affect minority women.
This will disproportionately affect African American and Hispanic women. I'm a journalist. I'm out there talking to these young women. I'm talking to people that feel like they have no option. Those women with means, a lot of women that find themselves in this position, they'll hop in a plane and go to California and get an abortion. There's a great portion of a disenfranchised community Black and brown people who will not have that option. So we're going to see ourselves going back to the days, and I hate to paint grim pictures of using clothes hangers, and I hate to say that, but the reality is these young people are going to try and find ways to handle this situation themselves. And, this is all about Texas protecting the family afterwards. When these families are having to fight for food care, child care, programs being cut left and right, there is a lot of hopelessness among these women in these African-American and Hispanic communities, and they're going to try and handle it themselves.
Right. But that isn't to say that abortion is the answer.
Oh, absolutely.
When we have to, I think particularly women in our generation, have to do a better job educating women and young men that pregnancy, unwanted pregnancy, is not necessary. There are a lot of choices, and we got to be thinking. Abortion cannot be just a method of birth control.
That's right. That's a good way to put
it. Right. That is totally inappropriate, and it's different if it's a health issue. So again, I'm from the 70s era and was in that generation where now I can look back and say, wow.
That's a good question I have actually, is if they do ban abortions in some of these states, and let's say that a woman that ends up getting pregnant doesn't realize that she's pregnant and she's battling cancer, or she's got a serious medical issue, is there going to be things that say, okay, well, she's going to be able to have that abortion, or was that she was sexually assaulted?
It depends solely on the states and what legislation they come up with, Steph.
Yeah, every state. Roe versus Wade was a medical question. That's what we forget. Roe versus Wade is a landmark Supreme Court case. By no means am I a legal scholar, but I have read the case, and it was a medical question. That was a young white woman who had a medical issue, and she needed to have an abortion. And over the years, it has morphed into a question of women's health care, women's right to choose. But the actual case was a medical question. It was what you had just begun to describe, Steph, about a woman who had a medical issue that was in tandem with pregnancy. And
Jane Roe. Jane Roe. She said she had been raped, and later when she became pro-life, she said that wasn't true. And
so she was falsifying information.
A lot of people don't know that she did have the baby.
Right.
So the thing, I don't want to scare women, I don't want to know scare is the right word, but the laws that will be triggered in the 28 states do not ban abortion. Texas is one of the strictest, is at 6 weeks, which did surprise me. But even Mississippi, where I'm from, it's 15 weeks. So each one, it'll trigger and I think most Americans feel like the first trimester is the only thing they're very comfortable with. As a pro-lifer, I feel differently, but I'm just saying that I don't think you're going to have people having to fly somewhere or do those kind of things. But one more thing I can say really quick is that we all agree that women should be educated, and we all agree on that. And there is a great organization,
and men should be educated.
And yes, led by Alveda King, Martin Luther King Jr.'s niece. And she also had many abortions when she was younger and made them. And she has a Silent No More Awareness.org organization for decades. Right. And if you want to learn what women went through, like you before had mentioned your experience, that's important. We learn that. We learn from other women's experiences. Right. So I think it's important for us to all learn from each other.
Yeah, and it's so personal.
I think most women, you all automatically know that they want an abortion when they find out that they're pregnant. So that time period, that wait period, all of that. I mean, if they have made the decision that I don't want to be a parent, they know that they want an abortion. It's not a process of going back thinking, is this something that I really want to do? They know.
Oh, that was not my truth. That I had an abortion when Rick Perry signed the law where women had to wait 24 hours in Texas before they could get an abortion. And I had to go home with the picture of that sonogram and that child inside me and sit with that picture. And that is like a huge decision, like to go home and know that because I was young, I got pregnant. I wasn't thinking about no calendar and no 12 weeks and no 15 weeks and none of that. All I knew was I was pregnant. and this is what it is, and what am I going to do? And I'm at home by myself with a picture of a baby in my belly, and I got to decide in the morning, am I going to go home and kill this child, or I would be a baby? I submit to you, Glenda. I got a lot of respect for you, but when I was
you suggest that it be?
I actually think the waiting period should be longer. And I know there's medical reasons why that you can't go into the second trimester, but once a woman has the information, she should have the opportunity to digest that information.
And of course, we want to thank all of those women for sharing their stories with us. Now you're looking at a live look from Washington, D.C., where that Supreme Court ruling could come down next month or a month after that. Tell Fox 26, who do you think should decide abortion rights? The Supreme Court, the states, Congress, or women? Log on to our website now to vote. We'll be back.